Wholeness begins where the soul is cared for. When we talk about mental health today, we often rely on the language of psychology, words like mind, behavior, and emotions. This is often called the psyche. But scripture uses a word psychology has stepped away from. The Bible speaks about the soul. In Greek, the word psyche originally referred to the soul. Over time, though, psychology narrowed that meaning to understanding human nature, thoughts, and emotions while setting aside the spiritual gravity Scripture gives us. Scripture goes deeper. It doesn't just explain the soul, it attends to it. The soul is the seat of our emotions, and it is often our emotions, the life of the soul, that we struggle with the most. I see this every day as a clinician. This is where our inner landscape is shaped, where joy and love are held, and where sadness, grief, and sorrow settle. And if we're honest, it's often the heavier emotions we feel the most. The Bible speaks about the soul many times, and nowhere is that more evident than in the book of Psalms. King David spoke openly about the anguish of his soul, his weariness, his distress, his longing for God, bringing his wounded places honestly before the Lord. When grief lingers, when disappointment settles on top of pain, the soul becomes burdened. And when life adds relationship strain, trauma, or illness, that burden deepens. But here is the truth. The soul doesn't need to be fixed to be nourished. It needs to be seen. That's why suffering cannot always be reduced to symptoms. Sometimes it isn't anxiety or depression. It's a soul that has carried too much for too long. Scripture gives us this prayer in 3 John chapter 1, verse 2. Above all, and I say it again, above all, I wish that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. That verse is the heartbeat of I wish you well, because healing begins in the soul. When the soul is burdened, the mind and body feel it. But when the soul begins to heal, clarity comes, peace follows. So today, I invite you to pause and ask yourself, what has my soul been carrying? Sit with that question for a moment and know this, above all, God cares about your soul, and wholeness begins where the soul is cared for.